The Minecraft that we know today is the result of many years of evolution. Each game update brings with it unique innovations and features that make the game even more exciting. And today, we're going through each one to pick out the best and most important things we got from version 1.0 to version 1.21. It makes no sense to mention all other versions like alpha or beta because they are unstable and created to help developers decide what should be added to the game and what needs to be fixed. And often their changes were not continued in future versions. Released in 2011 1.0. This version brought us the dragon along with its dimension, the edge. I'm really glad that this version gave us a hardcore villager mode and the ability to cast enchantments on the enchantments table. But I have to admit that the more important update of this version is the ability to finally beat the game by killing the dragon. I need to clarify for you before we go any further. Each version has a subversion. Their number comes after the second dot, but for convenience, I describe their innovation in one group with the main update. Therefore, now version 1.1. Summoning eggs appear in it for the first time. A beach biome has been added. It was previously added to the game, but for some reason it was removed and returned. This version also now has the ability to choose a different game language and the ability to enchant the bow. But what seems to me the best gift of this version is the opportunity to create a super flat world. In our time, we have to wait for a new version of Microsoft for years, but at that time, new versions were released quite often with a break of a month or two, but accordingly, content was added not so much. Version 1.2. Zombies are now laying siege to the houses of residents, and to counter them, iron golems and ocelots were added. A jungle appeared that no one likes, and no one likes to live there. Even the residents. An experience potion and a lamp appeared. But in this version, my choice is between the iron golem and the fact that the height of the world has increased from 128 blocks to 256. And I think that the second is still more important. I would call version 1.3 revolutionary. She gave us so many important things that our eyes simply wander in choosing the best. Emeralds and trade and inhabitants, adventure mode, temples in the jungle and desert, and ender chest. At that time, maps for passing were very popular, and their creators needed to somehow communicate with the players. But there were often problems with the tablets, and they cannot tell the huge story of the world where you found yourself. And then a book and a pen appear. They kept players occupied with books. Also in 1.3 there was a button, open for network, allowing other players to join a single-player game over a local network. But what's best, in my opinion, in this version it's finally possible to open the chat and enter commands, and that terrible inventory of the creative mode has also changed. And now we have the same inventory with search, which from that moment until now almost didn't change. 1.4. A rather scary update was released on the eve of Halloween, and you understand what the theme was with the addition of a bat, a witch, and heads that you can put on yourself, imitating a Halloween costume. And residents can now become infected with the zombie virus and be healed by the player. Fireworks have appeared, and the super flat world can now be customized. Here my choice was made on 3 points at once, and the first one is the Wither. I just can't ignore those players' love for turning spam into an ugly mess with withers. And this boss fight can be an interesting challenge. In addition, its drops can be used to make a useful beacon. Another point is the command block, and it was added in this version. Anvil and Books of Charm. They appeared with this version. I think this is the best thing 1.4 has given us. I often play Minecraft on high difficulty, and enchantments are simply necessary for a comfortable game. As for me, the best enchantment is repair. You can argue with me in the comments. 1.5 Redstone. The update is aimed at fans of light sensor comparator and ejector mechanisms. But perhaps the best thing that version 1.5 gave us is the funnel. This was a real salvation for hundreds of mechanisms and various kinds of farms. The ability to make mechanisms that themselves pick up and move objects, not allowing them to stupidly disappear. This was missing for a very long time, and now, finally, we got it. 1.6 added something better than a pig with a fishing rod. But the disadvantage of trolleys was also that they were not suitable for travel. They are expensive to build a railway and are more aimed at getting you to ride in a certain place. Ditto for mechanisms. There weren't enough horses. And the second reason with this version was a whole episode of South Park, where children set a password on their parents' computer, and in order to remove it, they had to answer the question, how to tame a horse in Minecraft. A tag and leash have been added, as well as now holding a sword, while in creative, blocks will not break if hit. This is a very useful feature because I have accidentally messed up my world many times when trying to get rid of mobs. But here I still agree with the developers and choose a horse 1.7 in an update that changed the world. It's difficult to single out something specifically because it really changed the whole world, but I don't want to choose anything from it. New types of fish like clownfish or pufferfish, new flowers and sunflowers were added. The better options are the colored sheep and the zombie rider. But still, I found two more important points, since biomes were primarily affected. More than 10 have been added. I can't get past the mass. Yes, it probably seems to you, as it does to me, that this is a multicolored biome, stupid and useless. However, this is what makes it the most special among the rest. Another point is that the fishing mechanics have been updated, and now using a fishing rod you can catch not only fish, but also objects. This is especially important for Skyblock players, and I really like this mechanic myself, so I will still choose it. Generous updates brought us Observer Mode, a variety of doors and ocean structures. Along with the guards came rabbits. Lapis lazuli now makes sense and is required for the enchantment table. I also like that there were flags or slime blocks, which gave us a lot of fun mechanics. But still, this update is more tailored for map creators, and we have a lot of cool commands, including for chat. The 1.9 combat update can truly be called a revolution. PvP has changed forever, which has caused a lot of controversy among players. The mechanics have changed, and now you cannot kill a sheep with one blow of the diamond sword. You need to wait to deal maximum damage. A second hand was added, whose main task is to hold the shield. Edge crystals appeared, which the players also decided to use to fight in the future. But the revolution of this update also lies in other aspects. My favorite spell, Repair, has appeared, allowing you to endlessly use an item without fear of losing it. And along with the buildings of the region, we received the favorites of this version of the game, Elytras. If earlier you could argue with my choice, then I think everyone will agree here. 1.10. This update gave us a polar bear and the transformation of zombies with skeletons into cadavers and zimagoras. There is little interesting that can be highlighted in this version. It is that now Endermen appear in the lower world. This is useful primarily for speedrunners, for whom every second is important. You can certainly be happy with the addition of a bone meal block. However, out of all this rubbish, I would single out the magma block. It provides oxygen underwater and gives many opportunities for traps and mechanisms, the same underwater elevator. And unlike the cactus, it doesn't care that there are other blocks next to it. 1.11. Those who like to travel, unlike the previous version, where there was a choice between, so to speak, unusual items. Here, on the contrary, it is difficult to choose among really cool items. After all, treasure maps and forest mansions appeared here. Totem of Immortality. Cool, but you'd be hard-pressed to argue that the best addition is the shulker box. The ability to carry extra equipment with you is just crazy. 1.12. This update was designed to add color to the world of crafting. All colors became more saturated, and multicolored beds appeared. Concrete and cement were added. Of the more significant things in the game, an illusion appeared, as well as a colorful parrot. But I like this version for something else. It often infuriated me that when you put items on a workbench, but change your mind about creating a new one, things are simply thrown forward, as if you had planned it that way, and not because you were simply too lazy to put them back in your inventory. In general, starting with this version, they fold back themselves. 1.13. With the water renewal, the reservoirs have changed significantly. Fish now act not only as objects, in which you can fish with a fishing rod, but also like mobs. We also got dolphins and turtles, a new mob of drowned people with a new weapon, a trident. On a better note, I can't help but be glad that the sunken ship was added. 1.14. The main thing that this update of the village and robberies brought was raids and robbers' weapons, a crossbow, berry bushes. And this is my favorite update. Not only for these reasons, but because it focuses on villagers, making them finally more useful with all their professions and trade system. If earlier they were at the level of a traveling merchant selling you all sorts of rubbish, now you can sell all sorts of rubbish and get real emeralds in return. I never paid attention to this, but it turns out that, starting with this version, the player can go through the opening as 1.5 blocks long if you hold down Shift. And my favorite is the updated trading system, 1.15 buzzing bees. The bees brought us honey. Actually, that's all that came with this update, as well as optimization. If you dig deeper, you can now repair iron golems with iron. I don't even know where to choose the best one here. Perhaps a block of honey. It can be found in many different applications, including redstone mechanisms. 1.16, a very significant update because it made it more meaningful for us to go into the underworld with all the piglins and bastion. And also gold finally has more meaning. Throughout the long history of Minecraft, it has been much and often criticized for being useless, and this update seems important to me. It was from this point of view that gold was a big disappointment, but now it can be traded with piglins or used to create the best new netherite armor added in this update. The next two versions have the same name and, in fact, are one. Basically, versions 1.17 and 1.18 are devoted to the development of caves and rocks, expanding them, allowing you to go down to minus coordinates in survival mode. I can't mention the cutest axolotl mobs. Everyone really liked them. Well, in general, this is all this update of caves the best thing that was added in these versions. 1.19 is designed for lovers of mysticism. The developers have added something truly scary that you should be afraid of. Despite the fact that on the cover of the Wild update there is a quiet guy with a frog, something more important was added to the game. A new boss, a warden, ancient city with a bunch of valuable things. Since the release of the trailer, I'm still impressed by the addition of a device that reacts to sounds, just like the Varden itself. And perhaps the best part of this update is all these horror mechanics, when one of your careless steps in the ancient city will summon an invincible monster that frightens you to the point of horror. 1.20. I'm usually very reluctant to upgrade to new versions. We need to get used to everything new again. But this version really grabbed my attention. And not even some cool mechanics, but the stupid beauty of the cherry tree. Crap. I like them, and I understand how stupid it is when there are more functional things like a brush with archaeology or a cool camel that two people can ride on. He can also move funny. However, these beautiful views refer us to the Japanese sakura tree just blows my mind. And here I want to give my vote for it. When you watch this video, it's hard to pick a favorite for version 1.21 because it hasn't been released yet, but I'll try to do it anyway. Test corridors will be added, consisting of constantly different traps. I like that the developers are again trying to give meaning to copper by adding copper lamps from the previous version. They added a brush, the crafting of which also includes copper. But what I think is not very good, What again devalues this resource is that the lamps lose their brightness when it oxidizes, and you need to scrape off the oxidation with an axe. No thanks. In this case, I will just run around with torches in these cells the old-fashioned way. Spawners will generate. The difficulty is that mobs appear simultaneously, and their number will depend on the number of players who decide to approach them. After the victory, spawners will give out a reward, and then it confuses me that they are becoming active again over time. If spawners endlessly give diamonds as a reward, then all sense of getting them by digging a mine may be lost. In general, Briss may appear from such worlds, and I would choose this mob because it is something new that has not existed before. He can open doors or activate mechanisms by throwing currents of wind. Another interesting innovation is that when a crafter receives a signal and resources, this workbench crafts an item. In short, I choose Briss and Crafter. Subscribe to the channel. This will greatly help my recently created channel. Like and write a comment if you liked the video. I don't have monetization. I won't push for pity. Here's my donation alerts. I'll be very pleased.